Hi, everyone. Welcome to Chico Steak's webcast, Life Sketches. I'm Melanie McLaughlin, and today I'm visiting with Nancy Gagon, a member of the Chico Steak community. Would you start out just telling us a little bit about yourself and your family?
Yes, absolutely. Well, I have lived in the Chico area now for 44 years, so a good portion of my life. I'm married to Scott Gagon. We've been married 30 years this December, so exciting to celebrate that anniversary. We have 3 children, Ashley, Tyler, and Amber, and we have 5 grandchildren from them and their partners, and we have lovely son and daughter-in-laws.
Fun.
Yes.
What do you get to do with your grandkids?
Well, I do work, so it's oftentimes in the evenings and or on the weekends, but sometimes I do have the opportunity to babysit them. We do. I mean, the oldest one is 8 now, so we do things that they like to do right now, for sure. We're swimming a lot. They come to my house to try to keep cool from this hot weather that's taking place. And the youngest is newborn just this year.
Okay.
So, we go for walks. We read books. We play with their toys in their home.
Very fun.
Yeah.
And you said that you work. Tell me about your work.
Yes. I have worked at Enloe Medical Center now this is my 28th year. 27 of those years have been in the Mother-Baby Care Center. And the last 10 years, I have had the opportunity to have a leadership role in that department, and I'm currently the director for Mother-Baby. And Mother-Baby is kind of a broad name for the department, but we have labor and delivery, we have postpartum, we have the special care nursery and pediatrics. And so I started as a labor and delivery nurse. I quickly became a special care nursery nurse because I love to take care of babies as well. And so that's what I have been doing for about 28 years now at Enloe.
Very fun.
Yeah, I love it.
And in all of your experience with nursing and at the hospital, is there like an overarching standard or principle that you have learned while you've been there?
Definitely. I think this actually goes way back to the very beginning of my nursing training. I started off as a CNA when I was 16, almost 17 years of age. I started off as a CNA through Butte College's nursing assistant program, and there I had very strong memories of the nursing instructors, telling us, just take care of this person as if they were your loved one, as if they were a family member. And that I heard that multiple times through nursing school as I became an LVN a couple of years later. And then 4 years after becoming an LVN, I finally did the RN program. And I think I heard that throughout my training from the nursing instructors, from staff, that you take care of the patients as if they were your family member. And so I feel like that is what makes nursing so nice for me and what I think about when I am taking care of a patient.
Do you have a specific story that comes to mind with you practicing that principle?
There's actually, yes, several. I think I was raised here in Chico. I wasn't a member of the church, but I had parents who were amazing. They were amazing parents. I don't feel like I was exposed to people who might have had challenges, drug, alcohol abuse, maybe some homelessness. I don't remember seeing that growing up. And it probably really wasn't until I became a labor and delivery nurse that I was exposed to that type of patient. And I can tell you over the course of my career, I've taken care of a lot of women who unfortunately maybe didn't have the means of a home or food, or they had some type of addiction and were coming into the hospital to have a baby. Some of them over time, are on drugs, having babies while they're using drugs, and so are struggling. And at first, it can be kind of scary, walking into a room, never having been around somebody who was using drugs or alcohol and or used language that was different than mine, or just had different the way they were raised. And I would always just remind myself, think about this as if this was, my daughter or my sister or, my mom. How would I take care of this person? Because at first, you maybe don't want to say much, or you just want to turn around and, step out. But if I would always just think to myself, okay, this is my sister. How am I going to take care of her today? And I would figure out how to do that. It's not always easy, but I would do that. And I think that's what leads my nursing practice and kind of who I am today when it comes to taking care of somebody else.
Your approach to helping people.
Yeah, yes, correct.
I haven't been in the hospital a lot, but the nurses I've interacted with, it's like your front line, right? The first interaction that you really have. And I've been so grateful for how well they take care of me. So I can see that.
Well, being in the hospital, you're in a most vulnerable state. I mean, it's not your best day for sure. And so, yes, nursing can, influence how your care is going to go.
Yeah. In your experience, life or with nursing, have you been on the receiving end of this practice? So you've treated patients as if they are your family. Have you received that treatment from others?
Yes. And I can think of many different people who have touched my life over the course of my lifetime. I would probably, my parents, my siblings, but I think probably one of the first times that I can think of outside of family was when I had my oldest daughter. I was young. I was still in high school, and I had a teacher that, asked me, what did I want to do? What did I want to do with my life? Here I was, a single mom of a baby, and I haven't finished high school yet. And I didn't know what I was going to do. I was working at Subway sandwiches. I'm making sandwiches. I just had no idea. And I just have very fond memories of him exploring options with me. He took out numerous pamphlets and, said, well, do you want to do like this type of program? I'm not exactly sure what the programs were, but then he pulled out a certified nursing assistant pamphlet from Butte College, and he said, you can do this over the summer, and I can get you in this. We can get some high school credits that will go towards your high school credits, and you'll have a job that makes more than minimum wage. And here's a person that I didn't even know, and I'm sure he could have looked at me very differently because I was different from the rest of the youth in high school. I had a little one, and he treated me probably as if I was his daughter. He helped me, and I wish I could see him again and thank him for the path that he started. I had no idea. I was making sandwiches and had no idea that nursing would take me down that path. And then there was other people in my life, my friends in high school, who put their arms around me to get me through that time. The people that were there, my daughter's grandparents, who took me under their wings, Nell and Dave Stevens, and loved me my friends in high school. One of them was your sister. The Wiley family. I can think of numerous people that showed love to me at various times in my life that didn't necessarily need to or have to. And they were there.
And then, and that was all kind of at the beginning of this unique situation for you, right? Like you found yourself in a really different situation than most high school students do. And then a little bit later, as you had like a young toddler, right?
Yes.
Tell me about Judd King. You'd mentioned him and what he did to help you out.
Yes. Well, I was of high school age, and I had a daughter, and I had just recently been baptized in the church. So I was baptized when she was about 6 months old, and it was the influence of those people who loved me, my friends in high school and the Stevens. And so I was baptized into the church, and I was attending a family ward, Chico Second Ward, the ward that I'm in currently. And Judd King was the bishop of, at that time, what we called the student ward, the YSA ward. And he had an elders quorum president who happens to be my husband today. It was Scott at the time. And he had discovered that I was out there in a family ward, and that I was, trying to go to Relief Society with women who had children, even though I was the age of probably the young women. And he really kind of, I think thought outside the box and said, this young woman needs a husband. And she's not going to find a husband in a family ward necessarily. And so he did whatever, bishops needed to do, got permission to bring me over to the YSA ward. And there happened to be another young woman in the same situation that came over, and they opened up a nursery. And our daughters went to nursery together in the YSA ward. And I became friends with the LDS group, the group there, and I still am friends today with many of them. And that is probably where my testimony also started to grow, was just being in the presence of people my age, and examples, that came with that, and then ultimately a marriage a few years later. And so I had the opportunity to meet with Judd King. It's been probably about a year and a half ago, and just asked him to share with me, a little bit about what he did, just because I know today YSA wards don't have, we just don't see that in very many places. And he just said, I needed to get you a husband, and I succeeded. So I obviously did something right, which was, just amazing. He loved me for who I was, and knew what I needed. I think it was, obviously inspiration that he had received, and he listened. And
I like that you said he thought outside of the box, like saw a need and figured out a way to help meet that need.
Yes, definitely. Yes.
Okay. I love all that. I love all those people that kind of took you under their wing. Will you tell us a little bit about what it was like? I mean, I can't really imagine what it was like to have been pregnant and young and investigating, maybe that's a strong word for you, but investigating a religion all at the same time while you're pursuing a career, like education for a career. That feels like a lot of stuff going on for a young person. How do you think your testimony developed as you were navigating all of those different pieces?
Well, it definitely took time. I can say it didn't happen overnight. I saw the example of those that loved me, and so many of them, were members of the church. And I felt I felt a lot of peace and a lot of joy at a time when I think, like, you're right, I think there was some overwhelming challenges, maybe some anxiety, of the unknown, like, how am I going to take care of this little girl? What am I going to do for a living? Where am I going? What am I doing? And the love that those that I was surrounded by sustained me through that time. And as I had the opportunity to feel the Spirit, in their presence at church, and the things that we did together, my testimony slowly grew. Where I think for a while I was like a child who depended on their testimonies, and I hoped that what they were saying was true. And then as time went on, I wasn't days, wasn't months, it was probably years where I could finally say on my own that, yes, I have a testimony, but it was because of who I was putting myself with. The people that surrounded me at that time allowed me, one, to make better decisions, because I obviously had made a decision, that ended up with a pregnancy, but it helped to change my life. And I wanted what I saw those people around me had. And I went after it because it was going to be me one day. I wanted to be that person in that place that they were in. So
I want to go back just a little bit. You talked about your high school teacher, and I'm not sure if you were pregnant, if you'd had a baby yet, but he directed you to the CNA program, and you were already working part-time, right?
I was working, part-time at
the sandwich shop.
Yeah.
So did you feel a lot of pressure to pursue a career instead of just a part-time job, or depending on someone to come in and swoop you up and save you?
Well, that would have been nice. But my Prince Charming didn't come for a few years. And so, yes, I mean, it was challenging. I remember how much I made. It was like $3.25 an hour. Times were different. That was 33 years ago. But that was hard to live independently off of. And so at the time, as a person with a child, I was considered emancipated. And so I was not living with my family anymore at that time. My parents had separated at the same time that I was having a baby. And I went to live with the Stevens family, and I needed to be able to drive to get to school, and I needed to be able to provide for my daughter, and to go to school I needed to be able to provide for daycare. And so I did need to rely on public assistance. And at that time, food stamps was it reminded me of Monopoly money, because it was colored based on the bill, and you tore it out of a book to give it to the cashier at the store. And so that was challenging, because I just felt like people were staring at me like, here, what are you doing? And so I was uncomfortable just being out with a little girl. I probably looked like a young person myself at the time, and I didn't want that for her. I didn't want that for myself. And so he mentioned when he introduced these other programs that these are going to get you more than minimum wage. You can continue to work at the sandwich shop and continue to bring in the money, but you need insurance to take care of your daughter and and you need more money to be able to independently go and have your own place to live without relying on my parents, who were going through a challenge themselves at the time, or depending on somebody, until I could bring in that money myself. And so I just felt a lot of pressure to figure out something. And it turned out the CNA program was the right path for me. And nursing is a great profession with the schooling that you receive and the everything that it teaches you and how it supports me in my life. And I continue to work not just necessarily for the financial money that it brings to my home, but it's also the benefits that it brings to my home. Having had 3 kids, raising them through, their years and doctor bills, et cetera, I needed the insurance.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted all of that, and it definitely provided for that. So I took his advice and went for it and ended up loving it.
Good. Will you tell us a little bit about how you and Scott started dating?
Okay. Well, Scott knew about me on his mission. My daughter's uncle and him were serving a mission at the same time and together. And they knew each other prior to their missions. They were both from Chico. And so they happened to be serving in Venezuela together. And her uncle found out that he was going to be an uncle for the very first time and mentioned it to Scott. And so Scott knew about me on his mission. And then when they came home, a little bit, I think they were a couple of months apart, I was living in the uncle's place and at his parents' home. And so my daughter met her uncle, and then a couple months later, I believe it was a couple months later, that Scott came home, and he met me for the first time when he came home from his mission. It wasn't right then that things started to happen. It was, he came home, he started back in school, he was attending the YSA, he became the Elders Quorum president there for Judd King, and it was when Judd had that inspiration, that thought of bringing me to the YSA ward, that he put Scott basically in charge of that and said, you need to get these 2 women to our ward so that they can, come and be with people of their age and maybe meet a husband one day. And we both did. Scott and I started dating probably a couple of months after I transitioned into the YSA ward. He was assigned as both of our home teachers, and so he came to my home, once a month, and he was my home teacher. He taught me lessons, took me to ice cream, and it just slowly started to grow from there. One of our first dates was to Chuck E. Cheese. We took Ashley with us, so
she probably enjoyed that.
Yes, she did. Yeah, it was very kind of him. And then it was about 3 years later that we were sealed in the San Diego Temple in 1993. Yeah. I
love how Judd King is just planting little ideas in people's heads. She needs a husband. That's good.
Great man.
As you think about the development of your testimony, do you have any advice that you would share with others who feel like their testimony is really slow in coming?
Be patient. Be patient. And trust in the process. I think that was probably hard for me at the time as I was going through it, and brought itself challenges. This life isn't easy. There's a lot of worldly challenges that can pull you away from choosing the things that would be probably better for you. And so I can't say that the moment I joined the church I was perfect. I mean, there was lots of repenting over the next couple of years as I tried to figure out, who I was and what I believed in. And like I had mentioned before, with time, it took time for me to develop my testimony. I didn't have any immediate visits or promptings or inspiration that this was all true. I really relied on my friends and those people that I was around, and to see the joy and the peace and everything that came in their lives. I wanted that so badly. So I hung in there, and I trusted that what they were saying, these are my friends, that I would have it one day. And I did years later, but I could finally say that I understand now. And I can really say that, now 30 plus years later, that I have a testimony, but it didn't come overnight. I think just if you can have patience, lean on people that have faith and have a testimony of themselves, put yourself around them, and you're going to learn and you're going to grow, and just give it time, and you will receive that in your heart.
Thank you so much. You have unique stories that might be difficult for some people to talk about. I really appreciate how accepting you are of you, of others around you, and how appreciative you are of those who've helped you. And we really appreciate you coming and sharing your life sketch with us today.
No problem. Thank you for the invite.